So welcome back, guys, to another recap, review, and breakdown for The Boys, and of course, today we are talking about that finale, and my goodness, some things happened which I definitely thought were going to go a certain direction, but of course, as always, I can't be on the ball with everything, and there were certainly some surprises, so I'm not going to lie, I just want to kind of get straight into it, because there's so much to cover with this episode, especially with what they set up for Season 4 as well. Of course, guys, I encourage you to leave your thoughts on my thoughts and any theories you have going ahead, coming out of the finale, but let's just dive into this and, break down exactly what happened. So, turns out I was on the ball with, and I felt like this one was kind of obvious. Last episode we had Newman give Homelander that little piece of paper, and he was like, "Where did you get this?" And I thought, this has to be Ryan's location, right? And right at the beginning of this episode, we had Ryan, like, throwing baseballs, God knows how far. Homelander definitely has a bit more of his human side left than what I think they even let on in the mirror scene, because we had him speaking to his mirror self a few episodes back, saying that he needed to squash that last little bit of humanity in him, and that is his need to be liked. But I do think, and as is clearly shown, because of his own issues with growing up without parents, and then in this episode, he would have liked to have had a father, in Soldier Boy, and everything like that, I definitely feel like it's very obvious he does have some kind of sentimentality for Ryan. Even if we have seen him be thrown off a roof by Homelander before and things like that when attempting to get him to fly last season, there is definitely something a bit more sentimental there, and this scene provided that for Ryan. And I was a bit like, Ryan, really, man? You gotta listen to him, kind of how, you kind of get an idea of how nuts he is, but you have to think about how lonely Ryan must be without his mother. After what happened with Butcher, he's probably feeling even more abandoned. And to top it all off, even though I'm sure, Auntie Mallory or whatever she's called is nice to him, he must still be very lonely. Like, he doesn't get to play with other kids, I assume. He doesn't get to see anyone else. So Homelander appealing to him as his actual biological father, Richie very much so knows, is something that I believe, Ryan is definitely impressionable for. The Attorney General is on her way because of what Starlight has accused on her Instagram stories with regards to Maeve being kept somewhere, and it turns out she was actually 12 floors beneath the tower. So this all got up until the point of where they knocked her out with some gas. She's getting transported, she wakes up, and she completely wrecks everyone in the van. At this point with Hughie, we pick up with him with his ears bleeding. I have got something to say about this a little bit later. Turns out that we pick up with Billy and Hughie already knowing about Homelander being the son of Soldier Boy. I kind of would have liked to have seen that scene, but I do see why they kind of skimmed over it and they just carry on the conversation. And this is one of the factors I enjoyed about this episode a lot. Despite, I feel, I'm not trying to blow smoke on my own ass here, I felt like quite a few of my predictions were on point. There was one thing that I really couldn't grasp, and that is, and you've probably already guessed it, what is Soldier Boy gonna do? But also, what was Homelander gonna do? I felt like it was a game that could go either one way or the other for both characters. Was Soldier Boy gonna be like, okay, Billy, no, he's my son, I can't do this, I know I don't know him, but, I'm old-timey, and I've always wanted kids, and I'm gonna have him as a kid, and especially when they pulled out the grandkid thing later, by the way, just jumping to that, because it's kind of relevant now. I thought, okay, it's done for. Soldier Boy won't be able to do this, but I was wrong about that. But also, I thought Homelander might, despite, again, I thought it was deliberate mixed signals. I've always wanted a father, I always looked up to Soldier Boy when I was younger. I thought it might be like, yes, but the ring is mine, I don't need you kind of thing. I thought they would do something like that, and I'm glad that I was pretty wrong about it, to be honest. And so from this moment, this was one of the things that I felt was fairly obvious, especially with the whole younger brother Lenny stuff. Butcher said the plan was to go back to the office, get some more temp V, and Hughie can more or less jump us to where we need to be. And they were at like a petrol station or whatever, and we had Hughie just get knocked the feck out. I just couldn't see it in Billy's nature, despite how diabolical he can be. I couldn't see him condemning Hughie to a potential fatal dose. Again, though, just a teaser. I kind of feel like this show is set up in such a way where there would be serious health concerns regardless. And I know I said I'd tackle this later, but I clearly can't really hold it in right now. But I'm pulling up a comment that was made 6 days ago. I'm taking one of my subscribers, or maybe they're not a subscriber, I don't know. But somebody commented, Arc Vulcan said, Billy had 5 doses, Gunpowder, Russia, Crimson Countess, Hirogasm, and Mindstorm, whereas Hughie has had 4. Russia, Crimson Countess, Herogasm, Mindstorm. So yeah, things ain't looking too bright for the lads. And I agree. So I think this is one of my things. Even though they're playing with the idea of, oh, is he going to take Temp V again? I know they've put health repercussions onto Butcher. I felt like that was an obvious one, to the point of where they might even tease death in this episode, even though at the end of last week's review I was saying, I just don't see Carl Urban going out the show, nor even Hughie. It's so weird to comprehend how they're going to do it. So I was worried about the execution. And with Hughie, if what this comment is saying is true, and he has had 4 doses, the fact that he's got off, I wanted some kind of writing in this episode where it would have addressed that, you need to go through some kind of treatment or something. Because if 3 to 5 doses are fatal, and he's been bleeding from the brain, and the doctor said that they drained the fluid from Butcher's brain later on, I think it is a very valid criticism to say that just because Hughie didn't take 1 more dose, for some reason he doesn't have any malignant tumors or lesions or God knows what else is wrong with even taking like 3 or 4. That does rub me a little bit the wrong way. Of course I don't want Hughie to die. I just wanted some kind of addressing in the writing, but it was kind of that thing where it was like, oh, he didn't take an extra 5, so he's fine. Absolutely no worries, just a little bit of bleeding. I don't know. It's a little bit convenient, don't you think? To be fair, maybe they're going to address it the next season, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if Hughie is kind of okay because he didn't take an extra 1. But yeah, I just feel like still 4 doses would, I don't know, he would have at least like some kind of cancer. Nowhere near as bad as Butcher's, obviously, because the doctor said the damage is already done, so I know there's already going to be some defenses saying, oh yeah, but for Hughie, the damage wasn't already done. But yes, there's still damage, though, like cancerous of some stage damage, but not like necessarily terminal, like Butcher's. But okay, I need to shut up. Moving onwards. In other news, we have Frenchie give MM the Novichok, or whatever it's called, in a $10 bottle of Starlight perfume. That kind of made me laugh. But with Ashley and the Deep, well, this was pretty funny. We had them try and approach Homelander about, oh yeah, Maeve's gone missing. But luckily, somewhat saved by the bell with a bit of a distraction, we have Black Noir enter the room, and Homelander seems really happy that he is back. Now, as for A-Train and his scenes with his brother this episode, I thought he would have, I feel like he was put on a bit of the back bench, to be honest. Same with the Deep a little bit. I have been theorizing in previous episodes, and this isn't like an expectation thing, so to speak, because I'm not sad that nothing didn't happen. I just kind of wanted more things to happen with them. I thought with the arc that A-Train was on, even though he got his ticker back, so to speak, and he can go speedster around the place, as very clearly labeled out here with his brother, when they were disagreeing and falling out and he fell out of his wheelchair on the floor, he said, look, it doesn't mean shit without you. I thought, since his brother disregarded him in this scene and in this moment, we've been talking about in the previous reviews, is this gonna still somewhat lead A-Train to finally do something that could help combo Homelander in the fight later on, or just anything? But no, he's still sat there complacent as hell, like the Deep, who is always sucking up to Homelander in any way. Yes sir, no sir, how can I do this sir? Now obviously A-Train's a bit more conflicted, so I'm guessing that they're reserving this slow burn storyline of him finally maybe doing something against Homelander just for another time, maybe further down the line when obviously in season 4 things could go even more nuts, given that final scene. Yes, I tease it again, and maybe A-Train's just gonna come in more handy on another rainy day. Some of you may say to me, but how do you know A-Train's gonna go good? And I don't want to say go good, but I just feel like the guilt, especially from this scene when his brother says, you've only ever been about yourself, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'll make it right. And his brother's just like, how? Every time you make it worse. I think that guilt is gonna live with him and somewhat be the momentum push every time for A-Train to do something that could possibly help out with whatever the boys are doing, whatever Homelander's doing, against Homelander, that is. We have that scene with Starlight and Hughie. It was nice to see them somewhat reconciled. They're clearly still good. I assume they're going to carry on together in the next season in terms of a relationship. She does say if you shut up any more, because Temp V is fatal, she said, you'd probably be dead right now. It's like, okay, that's fine. We had Butcher collapse, but it's like, just because he doesn't shoot up one more doesn't mean he doesn't have any long-term effects. And again, I just would have liked to have seen that mentioned in some way, shape, or form. We then have Maeve back at MM's. We have Starlight and Hughie go there. When they're deciding to go to the tower and still take down Soldier Boy, Hughie's like, we need to save Butcher. They're like, really? Like, some people aren't really worth saving, but it's like, no, we need to save him. But Hughie's kind of like, we save everyone, even if they don't deserve it, especially if they don't deserve it. Does that include, like, Homelander? Meanwhile, with Butcher and Soldier Boy kind of on the eve of battle, if you will, we have a little bit more context to Soldier Boy's upbringing, you know, kind of getting a bit of an idea of how he became the way he is, what he went through, his origin, so to speak, and how he got kicked out of boarding school because he was a screw-up, and how his father made sure he knew that, said he was a disappointment, and my god, does that come back to, like, you know, like father, like son, if that makes sense. He basically entered the Vought trials, became a superhero, and then his dad said it was a shortcut. So this has been living so deep in Soldier Boy's mind, especially with what he says to Homelander later. And I feel like Jensen Ackles was really good in this moment as well. You could see how teary his eyes were, yet trying to, like, hold it in. You can see how this is, like, a really massive driving force behind the person who is Soldier Boy. And this is where we get the Black Noir moments. So we have Black Noir is like, we must kill him, though. And he's like, I'm not sure I want to. So, as we know, especially from later on, like, Homelander was very sincere. Like, I thought there was a possibility for how he's kind of, despite once needing that, as he says in this moment as well, the thing I needed most as a kid, they kept it from me. Despite that, I thought he was going to kind of break his chains and just be like, look, I don't need you, you know, I could have needed you once, but not now. But no, he still really kind of wants a daddy, you know? So this is where that frustration came out of Homelander, because he basically knew that Black Noir knew that his dad was indeed Soldier Boy, and he kind of dropped this flex that I don't know if everyone's considered, to be honest, and how everyone thinks that Black Noir is this unreadable sphinx, this mystery. But he can see underneath the mask with his vision, his injuries, his smile, if you will, that, like, how busted up it is after the incident. He knows where he's happy, sad, telling the truth, despite the mask, all those times Homelander can obviously see. But I feel like Black Noir would have known that, so despite this being a core reveal for the audience, I guess, Black Noir knows Homelander's powers, so I'm sure he would have been composed in all of the meetings instead of under his mask and face just being like, screw you, Homelander. By the way, he knew this whole time that Soldier Boy was alive, his father was out there somewhere, and didn't tell him. And I feel like Anthony Starr did a really good job in this moment, because you can tell, like, even despite his psychopathic ways, Homelander was really upset by this. He was the last person, to, you know, with what he was saying later, like, I couldn't wait till they gave me a team, a family that I never had, but none of you are my family. I think the one person he could have viewed as family before Maeve, right at the beginning, because we know what he said about Maeve, the other person would have been Black Noir, I think. You know, he doesn't care about the Deep, A-Train, or anyone else, and that's why it was kind of crushing for him in this moment. And he literally did crush him and pulled out a bit of intestine, and I don't know, I feel like I wanted Black Noir to go out almost fighting. I'm not, like, disappointed by this moment, but I guess I just expected him to try and kill Soldier Boy, and maybe it would have been tragically, you know, sad for him to try and fight him, and he still gets his ass beat by Soldier Boy just like the old days, but at least he died trying to kill him. But instead, of course, they had Homelander do it, which still makes sense, because Homelander's incredibly impulsive. He's felt betrayed by various people all season, you know, like Maeve and everyone like that, so, I mean, that goes back quite a while. So I guess, you know, he's just like, you should have told me. This is when we had Butcher answer the door to Maeve, and we have MM just be like, hello, motherfucker. But the thing is, Maeve was eyeing up the nerve agent this whole time, and I was thinking, like, what are you gonna do? And she grabs it and throws it out the window. Feel sorry for the person's apartment or whoever that lands in, because that would shut all the organs down of a regular human, so you have to think that could be toxic in the area of wherever it landed, but who cares, I guess. But completely fair enough to Maeve, because this is a part of her character. Like, she wants nothing more than to kill this man, Homelander, and Soldier Boy is kind of like the one thing they share in common. Butcher and Maeve is the only one who could facilitate that. So they put them all in the safe, and Soldier Boy and Butcher go to the tower to confront Homelander and basically try and kill him. In between this, we had that scene that we've briefly gone over already with Homelander just saying, none of you are my family. He makes Ashley pull her wig off, which is, you know, you could see how much hair she's pulled out due to the stress, even though I think she kind of digs it at the same time. We have him command the Deep, and this is Homelander fulfilling his end of the bargain, because Newman, as she said, this is strictly a transactional relationship. Hey, here's a location to your son. Can he do something for me? We never saw really what that was until now, and so he requests the Deep to take out the vice president candidate, if you will, and so, as a result, Newman, as we find out a bit later, can take the spot. So, you know, I'm really liking where things are heading for season 4 in that way. I mean, I'm going to try and save this for the end, but yeah, that obviously we didn't really fully know it at this moment in time. Maybe some clocked on more than others, but we obviously saw the Deep take him out. Now, with Starlight punching her way out of the safe, I found their plan, the next part. I know, you know, Frenchie knows his things about drugs and stuff, but like to go to the lab, and I know it's a lab at Vought Tower, but for everything conveniently to be there, for him to create his own little blend of Novichok or whatever. I mean, I know he studied, well, I guess you could say he studied, he knew what Novichok was on that piece of paper a couple of episodes back. But correct me if I'm wrong, I just don't, I know he's meant to be a little bit of a jack of all trades, he's a bit drug dabbling, so to speak. But I don't know, man, like, everything kind of required Frenchie to have everything in that lab at that time. I have no issues with Kimiko protecting him, so I have no issues with him actually mixing it. It's just, ultimately for me, I suppose it doesn't matter massively, because even when he was being taken out later, just jumping to that very briefly, it didn't really matter because he was still releasing his power and stuff. But I think it's the fact that in the characters' heads, that's their plan and this has to work. And I guess that's all they had to go off, so they just hoped for the best. And so there we have Homelander watching an old video of Soldier Boy, his father back in the day, and that's when Butcher walks in with Maeve and Soldier Boy. Homelander reveals that Black Noir's dead, which is only handy for Soldier Boy, I guess. I'm sure he would have liked to have done it himself. And this is where we have the sincere side of Homelander come out. He's like, I just want to talk. I really didn't know what to expect in this moment, as I said, which is one of the things I was enjoying most. I was like, I really don't know what he's going to do here. But it turns out, as we were going over earlier, why should we kill each other? He says, I am your son, I am your blood, that's all that matters. And you can see what they were doing with the writing here again, as going over earlier, they were really showing a lot of conflict with Soldier Boy, like, what do I do? And, you know, that conversation with Butcher earlier, he's like, we had a deal. And he's like, well, I'm going to go get some air or something. It's like he didn't give him an answer. It's like, oh, so is Soldier Boy really not going to follow through with this? For Soldier Boy to say what he does next. But that wasn't actually until, well, this is when Ryan was brought in. I was like, oh, for crying out loud, because I was thinking in this moment, now he sees that he has a grandson, which is why I'm glad that my expectation was a bit subverted here. Because I thought, oh, he's going to see, as Homelander says, you have a family. And I was like, God damn it. But I know Homelander cares about Ryan, but he really did look as though like this was just being used to try and convince Soldier Boy to not go after him. But again, this is where Soldier Boy comes out by saying, it's a shame I've missed so much. But that's when he says, maybe if I could have raised you, I would have made you better. And not some weak, sniveling pussy starved for attention, which was a massive burn, and you can tell that Homelander didn't necessarily expect that. Again, this is also a burn on top of how even before he knew that he was his dad, he idolized him as a kid. You would have thought maybe Soldier Boy wouldn't want to end up being just like his dad, but the irony is that this is a very real thing that happens with people in the real world. But the thing here with Homelander, the reason why he is still being like his dad is because he's already turned out in a way that with Soldier Boy's values and old-timey stuff, he just views him as like an attention-starved pussy or whatever. So at the same time, like father, like son, he's calling him weak. There's no fixing you. You are a disappointment. So yeah, I felt like that was fitting in a way. And this is where all of the fight unfolds. I'm probably going to be darting all over the place because they were cutting left, right, and center to all kinds of different bits. So they were pinning down Homelander. You know, we had Soldier Boy loading up his charge. And yeah, Ryan got in the way and lasered Soldier Boy. Ryan got smacked out the side. And we had Butcher laser Soldier Boy. Because at the end of the day, if that blast would have gone on Homelander, it would have also hit Ryan. So obviously his promise to Becca, even over killing Homelander, he can't let the kid get hurt. Again, you can see how concerned Homelander is for Ryan in this moment, making sure he's okay if he's hurt, and that he's right here. Again, Homelander didn't really have to do that, so it's interesting that they took the time to film that scene and, you know, show that Homelander is still concerned. So now it's Butcher versus Soldier Boy, Maeve versus Homelander, and just as Soldier Boy was about to deck in Butcher's head, we have MM and Starlight turn up, and she's releasing her freaking blast, even though she gets decked sideways. Meanwhile, obviously, whilst all this is going on, Kimiko and Frenchie are in the labs, and Frenchie's doing his thing. We have Hughie putting an announcement over the towers, telling everyone to get the hell out of there. Love how Kimiko put her freaking AirPods in and started playing Maniac and started going crazy on the guards. Unfortunately, Frenchie got shot, which I argue, like, Kimiko could have avoided because she was just going ham on the guy who was already maybe even clearly dead or knocked out at this point and kept going and going and going, which allowed the other guard to shoot Frenchie. So we get to the point where Maeve's eye gets, like, kind of squished, and man, from this moment onwards, Maeve is very convicted to get him, and I loved how just ham she was going against Homelander in this moment. And after this, we have Soulja Boy just, like, repeatedly punching Butcher, and I just feel like MM was somewhere in the background, but just not doing anything. He could have just got his shotgun and, like, shot him from the side to help Butcher not just take so many freaking punches, but it was kind of one of those things in choreography where it's like, hey, kind of forget about the other character in the background for a minute. Kimiko comes in. Unfortunately, she gets sideswiped. And at this moment, with Soulja Boy, everyone is just, like, wiped out. And Hughie can see this on the cameras. He's considering to take the Temp V. And even I was thinking in this moment, don't do it. Like, God damn it, this is so predictable. But are they really going to do the thing with Hughie? But he decides not to. And he turns up all the power and lights in the room to max so Starlight can get supercharged. To the point of levitating. So now she can actually fly if she's got enough, I guess, energy, you know, linking with her Starlight powers. So in this moment, we're right at the end of it now. Soulja Boy gets blasted back, and as he's standing up, I guess, like, a little bit disoriented, we have Kimiko, Starlight restrain him. Fair enough, two superpowered people there, and MM satisfyingly is the one who gets to put the mask on him. Kind of a bit of a flashback to how Payback did the same thing, but it was Crimson Countess. And he's getting dosed with, you know, the Novichok, which does usually knock him out. But it didn't really seem to in this moment, to be honest. I mean, it did kind of do something to him, of course. And that's why he was, like, kamikazing in this moment. So I'm not going back in that box. He kind of does. But either way, in this moment, he starts charging up. Maeve witnessed this in this moment. And the better part of her came through, just like it did with Butcher. Like, even though they're dead set tunnel vision on killing Homelander, she couldn't let loads of people die. So she's like, well, shit. And she kamikazes out the window and gets caught up in the little mushroom cloud blast that Soulja Boy created and got depowered. Now, some of you may regard this as a nitpick, and I don't really know whether it is, because you could say that because Maeve got depowered in midair, when she fell to the floor, she maybe should have died, and I know people will be saying instantly, but maybe it takes like 20 to 30 seconds for the powers, the suit powers to go, so the super strength might have still been with her when she hit the floor. But then I just bring up the case of Kimiko, in all fairness, like the in-universe logic they've already established, and that is when Kimiko got immediately blasted back from Soulja Boy in Russia, immediately upon that blast, she went back into the pipery or whatever it is that was in the walls, and she got impaled. So, by that logic, in midair, when Maeve was falling, she would have been depowered and gone, you know, pretzeled out Stranger Things style on the floor. But again, I know that doesn't really matter to people, but I'm just simply, you know, calling out the logic of the show. But I'm not sad that Maeve is alive. I'm happy she is, and maybe she'll even come back one day, even though it does feel like they're writing her out. I'm just saying, going off what we know about this show's logic with Kimiko and Soulja Boy's powers, with how Kimiko was almost dead immediately with her powers gone, by that logic, Maeve should have kind of definitely not survived that fall. Now, this is where we had Homelander approach Butcher, and it's like, you know, he wanted to kill him, but, and I think this was a believable character motivation here, he didn't. Now, I was initially split between this, because given Homelander and what he's like, he should have just lasered Butcher if he wanted to, or just tried to kill him. But I think they've shown that he clearly cares about what Ryan thinks, sentimentally at least, especially this episode. And he didn't want to do it for Ryan's sake. And then I thought, but what about the end of the episode? He literally murdered a civilian in public. But the difference there is he knows that Ryan really cares about Butcher. So only for that sake, Butcher, I guess I'm keeping you alive. Butcher is in hospital, as we kind of went over earlier. The doctor says that the damage is already done for him. They've drained the fluid from his skull and his brain, I guess. And since he's so screwed and has lesions and tumors, I'm guessing, the damage is done. Any kind of treatment like chemo or anything would just significantly reduce his quality of life for no return. It wouldn't extend it. So, yeah. And this is why, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but Hughie should have some kind of cancer at the very least, since he had around about 4 doses. You wouldn't just be like, oh, because you didn't have 5, I know I keep saying this, I guess I'm lucky. We have Ashley delete the footage. Fair enough, because she's trying to do one good thing, I suppose. We have Grace Mallory putting Soulja Boy back in a box. which is interesting, which means he can come back one day. That's something that's cool to know. Whether that's not even next season, they might want to pull it out the bag at season 5 or 6, who knows? Somewhere down the line, you can really envision it that way. And in a way, I kind of feel bad for MM because I guess he thinks that Soldier Boy is dead, but really he's back at square one. I know he's got the peace of mind of, and as he said himself, he wanted this thing done with Soldier Boy, and that is the OCD will go away basically if he just knows that Soldier Boy is gone. But he's basically back at square one. He's out there somewhere, albeit he's in a very contained unit, still out there. So if he learns of that, that will definitely be a reserved character arc for MM one day if they ever want to revisit. Oh god, like, so it turns out Soldier Boy is still out there. Great, I'm haunted all over again. And this is what I meant through how the finale kind of went how I somewhat felt it would in various areas. So like, you know, Carl Urban isn't going anywhere, at least immediately, because we were talking about the whole Temp V thing, right? We were discussing and theorizing, well, this is really damaging. They've already had 4 and 5 doses, and that's very bad. But I can't see anything happening to Carl Urban. Nothing technically has, albeit he is going to die at some point, even though they could reverse it somehow with some comic book logic, I guess. Hughie, I guess, is fine, even though he kind of shouldn't be. Homelander, I couldn't imagine Anthony Starr going out the show, even though you could argue that he could have, and Jensen Ackles could have taken his place as a big bad. I still just didn't see that happening, so I never really expected him to die. And I did, I think, entertain in my previous videos as well, the idea of Jensen Ackles could have just been brought in for a season to be that, you know, extra bad. Even though he was really good, received very well from fans. Well, he's not dead, so he can come back, but he was bested for now. So I feel like everyone is kind of back at square one. Soldier Boy's still out there. Homelander's still alive. If anything, things have got worse because of Ryan, freaking Newman in Congress. So do you know what I mean? Everyone's kind of back at where they began at the start of the season, if not in just worse positions. We have a mini Brightburn situation going on. Of course, we have Starlight join the boys. She throws her suit away. That's something I'm looking forward to. And this got to the point of the ending where, like, my god, we have Homelander introduce Ryan to the public. And he can fly now, which I believe, because they were showing that his powers were progressing. He's been pretty bored on the farm, so I can fully believe that he's just been like, hey, I'm going to try hover today. It's just the tragedy of this in a way is that, while I believe that Homelander cares about him, this is going to be such a messed up upbringing, if you will, to be like highlighted in the public light like that, and also be so impressionable as a kid from all of these followers that he's got. And that is when a Starlight follower threw like a can at him or something, and that really pissed off Homelander to the point of where, and I called this, I was like, with all of, I mean, it was an obvious one, with all of the season teasing that he's letting himself out a little bit more to the public, like these mini outbursts, and some of the crowd loves it. The one thing I said to my friend the other day is like, it's gonna have to end with some kind of public showing. I don't know what it is, if it's gonna be a laser thing. I think I did mention that, but turns out it was. Like, it wasn't lasering a whole crowd, but it was one person. And I did even entertain the idea of what if the crowd likes it. Not everyone, because clearly not everyone would, but Todd was the first one to, like, really dig it. The crowd started cheering. Now, I'm wondering if that was set on an arc in season 4 for MM to get back with his ex-wife. But the big thing I'm interested in is they're definitely going to have to address in season 4, episode 1, that, like, literally he's murdered someone in the public. Granted, that person should be arrested for assault, for, like, throwing out or whatever, but that doesn't condone murder, obviously. Yet, how can the police hold a Supe accountable? So next season could be, like, so nuts, and I really hope they're on the ball with it, because they need to explore that. Homelander, just because he's a Supe, he's still a civilian, so he needs to be arrested. Yet, I can't imagine he's going to let himself be arrested. So what happens then? Do they, like, bring in the tanks? Because it's like, well, if you're refusing arrest, we need to bring in... But then even those people can't bring him down. So they're going to have to explore the more untouchable attitude that Homelander has got. And even Ryan, and this is the, again, as I said, messed up, tragic side of it, he's so impressionable as a kid. So he's like a smile of subtle indulging. And, oh man, like, I could end up as a Brightburn, basically. He doesn't have to go that way, but he definitely will, and this is symbolic of that, indulging in how, oh, my dad is respected, feared, powerful, and I'm a Supe, and I'm his son, and this is the kind of attention I could get. So as usual, like, the boys leaves off in a place where, like, next season has to only get more nuts, because now Homelander can just murder people and do whatever he wants and get away with it. What did you guys think of the boys season 3 finale? I can imagine a lot of people really enjoyed it, and so did I. Like, I have a lot to enjoy about this show, despite some of my issues with the writing at times. It's one of those shows where, still subjectively, I get a lot of entertainment out of the very premise of the show, how mature it is, the nuts as hell characters and whatnot. So ultimately, it was a very entertaining finale. A few moments here and there where I was a bit like, eh, but at the same time, I enjoyed myself, and I feel like it's setting up an insane season 4. So, other than that, guys, let me know your predictions or any theories you already have for the next season. Would really appreciate a like on this video, especially if you got this far. I do recommend staying subscribed because we're going to get into bonus The Boys videos and, of course, future news updates on any kind of news we get out for Season 4 over the coming months and year or whatever. If you have any suggestions for extra Boys videos, like maybe predictions for Season 4, just ideas of where I think it could go, you want to see other videos like that, do let me know down in the comments below. That's the best way to help inform the content you see on this channel. But I'm going to love you and leave you now, guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you boys and soups in the next video. Goodbye.